Good morning. Well, rally underway. It certainly looks that way. Yesterday, we did get a correction bar. Um, Looking at the S&P futures, we'll take a look at the others. What's a correction bar? It's one in which it trades under prior bars lows and springs right back up again. And ideally, we have more of a sideways move when it happens, but this doesn't always get the ideal. It did poke down and form what we call a bottoming tail bar. And we can see pre-market here, things are moving up and slightly above the prior highs. And there's nothing above here to stop it from going up. I just moved up my red line on this because there's nothing above here. So I just meaningless up where it is, of course, new all-time highs. So what do? Well, prior bars low is our systematic way of saying, has something of any significance happened based on the time frame we're looking at? And as we look at the prior bars low, not only is it that bar, it's all of what's happened here in the poke down, which you can see on the hourly chart. It broke down and came up, and then for good measure, yesterday poked under the low, which opened up the door to the void below, and it sprung right back up again. So clearly, buyers demand just don't care, and they see any pullback here as a buying opportunity. Possible measured move, that would be pretty incredible, Robert. I sure it could be. And yesterday's commentary was this situation here would, if it resulted in some kind of sideways corrective price action or a correction bar, could set up a move to 5,000, which, being a whole number, would be a pretty stiff reference point to get through initially, especially with the internals up here, which, I've already put up for everyone to see, because look, the internals are a concern. There's no doubt about that, but the price action is what we trade. And there is this momentum move and avoid, and we've got several days of price action. The week before the New Year holiday was lower volume, and, it just chopped around. And so nonetheless, it's corrective price action. This is up at extremes, as I explained yesterday and have in the past. 0.80 historically is an extreme. This market has been different. And so that's why these bands that I created years ago, they adjust for bull and bear markets. At some time in the future, we'll get into some type of a bear market, and these bands will start pointing lower. And the lower extreme could be historically 1.4, but 1.2 is the static extreme, which hasn't been seen recently. So should this go up, would fully expect breadth, which is already at an extreme, would poke above the top red line, and this will push up into here. So yeah, right now the price pattern says it's going higher, but we're cautious. And so one of the things that we want to see today, right? There's going to be this move up, a slight gap up, when we look at SPY, is that today doesn't falter, meaning the way this bar looks right now is the way we would hope to see it at the end of the day today, where it's held on to its gain, maybe a little bigger, but to turn into a red bar, it still wouldn't violate yesterday's low. But, I look at something like this as, hey, here's a resting period. Here's a correction bar. Historically, it doesn't make any sense for there to be profit taking immediately after a resting period. And that would be a concern if today closed weak, even though it would be well above this consolidation here. It really shouldn't happen. If anything, the morning should be maybe a little profit taking from an initial move up here overnight. And you see a little bit of that's going on here on the 5-minute chart. Some sideways price action. Buyers step up at a next higher level. Let's just call it somewhere around here, where I'm pointing on the hourly, and it closes well. And so if not, well, we'll just see what happens, bar by bar analysis. That tells us, hey, we've got one piece of if it was a red bar, bearish information within the context of this more bullish information. And the next step in what we'll call, the MTS thought process is, well, what should happen next based on historical norms and our method? It should be a red bar ignored. All right. So today turns out to be a red bar. Tomorrow should be a green bar, red bar ignore, confirming this very bullish price action here. Breaking below the correction bar's low clearly opens the door to a move lower. That shouldn't happen. We would then say momentum is slowed down. The distance between highs is very close. So this is just the systematic thought process that occurs. Right now, the market did what it needed to do. I would have preferred a deeper pullback, but what I preferred doesn't always happen, because a deeper pullback would have brought these internals to a more neutral level and would have been more supportive of pushing, higher. Right? But is the indicator in the middle of the screen? But is the indicator? This is not an indicator per se. I don't like the word indicator, as you probably know. It's an internal market gauge. This measures sentiment and this measures breadth. And what we want to see is the two of them in agreement at the same time, like it was here, and on the bullish side, to support historically a bias that buyers are going to show up. Right? So when they reach an extreme as they did here together, right, we expect some bearish price action, not a market crash, some type of corrective price action. And, since you brought up, I was talking about slowing momentum, and you brought up looking at this particular chart. Well, so I want to show you, this is what slowing momentum looks like, where the highs are closer together. Now, those that are using indicators, they see their indicator down here and, they get like this. But look, this or this doesn't necessarily result in this, and a pullback. These internals are what historically tell us, be careful. And they're telling us now, start being careful here. So if we do get further move, this will move up here and become more extreme. And look, it's just historical, very good information to guide us, where be cautious on the long side. Over here, start thinking more aggressively on the long side. All right, let's look at other markets. Nasdaq not doing as well, but it hasn't done as well, even though this was a very bullish move. And here we got the turn, and it hasn't gotten cleared this. That doesn't mean it won't. It just means it's dealing with the supply that's here to the left. So far, dealing with it well, just the beginning of the day. We'll see where this goes. Weekly chart is within striking distance of new all-time highs. We've got this, what I call Christmas tree pattern, red, green, red, green. So a significant area of price support. It's at resistance. So far, we got a topping tail ignored from the prior week, the beginning of the week. So at this point, everything's still looking intact for the upside until something changes. The Dow, new all-time highs, topping tail bar ignored. Bullish price action looks good. What's the support number for QQQ? Let's look a look. All right. Well, yesterday's low. Yesterday's low. Step by step. And it's the same, intraday. Well, it's dealing with the resistance there. If this rolls back over and takes yesterday's low out, we all know that's not what should happen. So, intraday, they're, 380-ish. Oh, way down there? Well, yeah, of course. But look, if it goes all the way down there, this market just continues to be a big mess. That's not what's supposed to happen. After a momentum move, which is power, the next part of the thought process is it needs to create support where there is none. And that's what happened yesterday. It created support by making this pullback and pivot, and it popped back up again. So if it breaks below that, this is where a measured move is most likely to happen to the downside. So if today was immediately to fail and we got a red bar, tomorrow morning I'll be saying, let's look for a measured move lower. And that wouldn't take it down here. We'll probably take it somewhere where there's really nothing. But look, we'll see. We'll see. Now, you might say, well, why would that stop going down if there's nothing there? Well, the S&P 500 or the Dow or the Russell could reach some support and buyers step up there. So look, this is all about pictures or charts or pictures of trader thoughts and psychology. And so if everyone that maybe is focused on the cues starts seeing buying occurred elsewhere, that's, aggressive, well, they'll say, hey, maybe things are okay here. And they'll start buying at the 50 MA or maybe wherever the 100 is. The blue line right there, the 20 on the weekly is the 100 on the daily. And you could see where the horizontal line is right there that I'm moving. So while subjective as a reference point, the 100 simple MA is something institutions focus on as well. Okay. Steve's asked me internal charts. I watch our advancers minus decliners and up minus down volume along with ticks and trend and futures. I used to as well, Steve, but it becomes overwhelming with looking at too much information, and we don't trade market internals. So I don't look at trend anymore. I don't look at advancers minus decliners intraday. And I don't look at up down volume. Now I have setups that I can share with you with levels of all of that. And when I just, not primarily, that's all I traded was futures, right? Equity futures. And I had the ability to look at all of that while just trading those things because I wasn't focused on trading stocks. Today, the futures aren't what they were many years ago, meaning there's days that they're great for trading and there are other days where they're just a mess and there's no fantastic opportunities and they'll churn you up. And so intraday, all I look at is the NYSE tick and set alerts at extremes. Yeah, I'll dig out my old stuff for that and email me. So I'll have a reminder to send it to you. And in eSignal, I've created screen, that's, layouts for that with color coding at different extremes. So it's pretty cool. I can send it all to you. All right. The Russell, so far bullish price action at this resistance area. It's banging its head on the 50 MA, which is, again, subjective reference point. So again, just like everything else, we'll see where it goes. If it breaks below these lows in the next day or two, look out below because it's coming down here. Right? So again, weekly charts got nice reversals. But right now, it looks like it should continue to go up. So we'll go with that until it changes. Bitcoin trying to hold these lows here. It really shouldn't have come back down here, but it did. So what we need to see is a wide range bar, wide range green bar here, or a bottoming tail bar, retesting these lows. And then we'd say, hey, let's look at Bitcoin stocks, ETFs as a long. Right now, it's just quiet down here. Crude oil, same bullish price action. So let's see if it continues. Silver got shellacked yesterday, but so far it's holding. Hit that topping tail and came back in pretty hard. And so did gold, even worse. So, this is part of what we see in a bottoming process. And, traders, as of late, while they're willing to step up aggressively on pullbacks, they just sell, whether it's gold or equities, they just, and this is institutions that are creating bars like this, they're just willing to sell at the drop of a hat. And which makes, trend trading a little hairy at times. TBT, look at that. I mean, this is why, and I mentioned yesterday, if this could continue to move up, it's going to be positive for financials, and financials were a good performer yesterday. XLF, KBE, of course, the stocks. So as long as this holds up, I mean, that's supportive of, the financials continuing to do well, which is supportive, especially for the S&P 500. And let's take a look at the VIX. It's down here low. It can stay low. And so that's really no piece of information to suggest the market has to pull back. We rely on internals for that. And while this is an internal, I've seen plenty of time like here and in many years over the years where it can stay low and markets move up. Transports, red bar yesterday. Let me look at red bar yesterday. And this has a lot more stocks than the 20 that are in the TRAN. But interesting that this looks as good as it does. I mean, you turn on the financial news. I don't hear financial news. I hear about Omicron and coronavirus and vaccines. I wish they would shut up about this, but so far, it seems like the markets are saying, who cares? I guess we're going to live with this for as long as we are. And I guess more like a cold, right? And airlines, right? So pluses and minuses out there. And so far, things look pretty good. And we'll continue to go with that until it changes, and respect that the internals are telling us it could be short-lived, whether that's 2 days or a week. They're rarely, very rarely, if ever, pinpoint accurate as to turning points, but they're not to be discounted. And so go with the patterns and smaller size. So if some surprise happens, we know that there's additional risk here because of the internals. Whereas if they were at bullish levels, we'd initiate positions and look to be adding to them. Where adding to positions at this point historically could result in a sizable loss. So there you have it. Let's see what happens here. And your wife caught it. I think my wife, David's telling me in YouTube that his wife caught it. I think my wife caught it too. And while she got tested again for corona, which tested negative, she had the sore throat. She didn't feel good. Well, we haven't had any shots because we don't want to inject ourselves with experimental drugs. But for all the times, and we had coronavirus, I believe, before anyone was testing or talking about it. I guess that was 2020, was before the little crash occurred. So significant antibodies, which are supposed to have, been built up. I think I had corona. I think I had Delta, probably Omicron. So whatever, stay healthy, take your vitamins, right? Don't get too out of shape, and we'll all survive. We'll talk tomorrow. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. I know, you know how I make fun of the news people, how they, something's up or down and they got to fill in a blank. Oh, so-and-so's up because of blank. And, and then when they can't explain it, like today, we got record over 1 million cases of COVID reported yesterday. And so the CNBC, they don't know what to say. So they just say, oh, the markets are overlooking it. Because they can't explain it either. So we're partying here, all-time highs, spiders, diamonds, overbought or not overbought, the bearish internals, but it is what it is. It's crazy. So we do have call spreads that we are going against us here in the spiders and diamonds, gapping all-time highs. We'll use 30-minute high to start, unless we'll keep an eye on it, and we may or may not tighten it. The only other potential problem I see here in our open inventories, grub here, a little bottoming pattern. It's gapping down. So we will just keep our stop, but all of our longs are doing well with yields going up. Goldman here up $5-6. We shorted a put spread on that yesterday. Looks like it might be setting up for a day trade long too. The money grab game, yeah, tell me about it, David. That's, I'm not going to get started, but the whole world kind of revolves around money and politics, is what you can, what politicians do. Ego, politics, money, power. I know. All right, KSS a little weak here. Anything gapping down is relative weakness. And let's see, 48.90. So this 30-minute low, if this can't bounce, then 30-minute low is a short idea. Yeah, Ken, I saw the same thing. I was watching him for a few minutes, and he was talking against some other guest who, I mean, he labeled it perfectly. He said Bitcoin is artificial demand. What's the word he used? Demand, what's the word? Demand or supply cap. I forget the word he used, but I'm like, that's exactly right. So they're just saying, hey, we only got 21 million Bitcoins available. So I'm creating an artificial supply problem. All right. So anyway, so he was saying, who knows? This thing can go to zero. And the other guys, oh no, it's going to 100,000. I'm like, here we go again. We're going to be hearing this all year long. That's for darn sure. All right. Jan, never heard of this stock. JAN. It's low volume though. That's a real tail. I saw it up there at 520, but there's no volume. But see, you know me, Ken. I don't take hard and fast beliefs about anything in the market. I mean, I'm a believer in, yeah, Bitcoin could go to zero, but it can also go to 1 million. I don't know who if you got demand overwhelming supply, then it could, who says it can't go to 1 million? I don't know. And that's why I like trading charts, because I don't have to lose sleep or brain power over who's right, who's wrong. The chart will tell me what to do. Jacopo PRLB. That's bottoming pattern. That's worth watching. He's also asking about PayPal. PayPal looks a little bit more mature to me than the other one. And we actually bought a half lot of this yesterday. PayPal is a bottoming pattern. ISPC, Perkin here pre-market. It just looks like a day trade toy. I don't like those. FL gapping down, another weak one. That's Foot Locker, $43. I like JWN. I'm sorry, KSS. Bearish gap better. This is a better short setup under a 30-minute low. On T and Verizon, remember yesterday the paper said, they said, oh, FU, FTC, we're going to roll out our 5G. So today's paper said, oh, they did a 180 reversal. and now they're bending into them. It's kind of, I guess, like China. Well, China's more obvious about it. Their crackdowns. I guess our politics is, they're like, are you sure you don't want to, follow along with what I'm asking you? You remember that the next 48 times you come knocking on my door, asking for us to approve something, all right? You just, I could lose the file, it could take longer than normal for me to take a look at it. And they're like, all right, shut up. So that's how our politics works. Or we said this earlier, right, David Wygant? They're like, all right, well, why don't you give me $500 million to delay it? And then that's the amount of money, whatever money I'm going to lose. And they're like, all right, here you go. So there you have it again. It's either money or politics. John Williams asking about this. It's a higher low. You can throw it on the list. Bottoming pattern, bullish weekly. All right, yeah, there's my PayPal right there. Airbnb, we talked about yesterday as a put spread. It's gapping up here, $2. So let's check the juice on that. I was stalking this RCL yesterday, a cruise ship, and I know the 200's right there, but this pattern suggests that they should get through that. Look at little Northern Caribbean, made a higher low, higher high. Now you got a sloppy buy setup. Jets we're still in the ETF. We got into Delta yesterday, and also ALK is on my list. Bullish price action after 100% retracement, price void. So this one's looking good today. I'll put that in the window. ALK. WMG 4150, so bearish gap, but now it's range bound. Semis I was stalking yesterday. Look at that. That is a buy setup with a bullish close. So this was totally on my list today to buy over yesterday's high, but now, the gap's messing me up here. So, but it's still on my long list. Sierra Echo gapping down to 207. That's an ugly gap. Wow, it's gapping under last week's low as a bottoming pattern. Nothing to do with that. Yeah, I saw Disney gapping over the 50 MA. Yeah, I saw that. CVX we entered yesterday. Oil's been doing well. That looks good. Somebody mentioned run in the green room, bottoming pattern. It's kind of a retest. Yeah, we're in Ford. Yeah, got into that yesterday. Slob extended for me now. The CHPT, little 1, 2, 3 over yesterday's high. These are 3 semis I was watching that were mentioned in Barron's. Little, there's a little bull flag, right? Flagpole. My little 30-degree retracement. NXPI was on that list. That's a bullish chart. TDOC, bottoming pattern. I have an alarm set. NEO, we were gonna buy this yesterday, but the gap in yesterday morning had some crazy whips in the market. So, like, really weird. And this was another one, so I canceled it. Stone here, another bottoming pattern. Look, there you go. So yesterday is our something bar, and now it's a 1, 2, 3. So that actually looks pretty darn good now. I'm gonna put that in this bottom right. Stone. Yeah, hey, John, can you tell me where our midpoint is? Or maybe in another minute or two, let the spreads settle down. All right, Stone, I'm gonna set an alarm at 1940. Ballard. I have low alarm, but nothing to do with it.